Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. Hospitality isn't just our profession, it's our passion. With decades of experience and countless stories to share, we've navigated the highs and lows of this dynamic industry, not just as professionals, but as a husband and wife team tackling the challenges of business and life together. This podcast is your invitation to step behind the curtain of the hospitality world. We'll share real experiences, lessons learned, and the moments that have shaped our journey, offering inspiration and insights for anyone walking a similar path. Whether you're just starting out or have years under your belt, we're here to remind you that every challenge is an opportunity and every story has the power to inspire. Hello and welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. Today we are going to be looking at some more travel trends for 2025 and particularly looking at a selection of articles that Forbes put together. They were published in, I think, December, possibly November, but we'll put the links in the description of the episode. But we're particularly going to look at female adventurers, soft travel and silent escapes in particular. Ashleigh, are you looking forward to this one?
I am, and this is written by one of my favourite journalists, Angelina Villa-Clarke. I think every year I look forward to her Forbes series that she writes. She really seeks out the most interesting trends and really backs it up with some incredible examples of what's happening in the industry globally, and some lovely examples of experiences which just look incredible. So yeah, really looking forward to this episode. I think this is definitely resonates a lot with me. The first trend that she seeks out is the rise of female adventurers even, which she calls Wonder Women, which I love. So we have covered, and interestingly, across the board, seen an increase in solo travel, but this article particularly focuses on solo female travel. With Virtuoso reporting that 71% of solo travellers are in fact women, with a 131% increase in Google searches for solo female travel over the past year. So, it really demonstrates that women are a key part of this market segment. And really from a hotelier and travel perspective, the industry is already responding, but certainly it feels like it's a growing opportunity for hoteliers and travel companies to really tap into. We've got a lot of lovely quotes that are referenced in the article, and CEOs of everything from hostels to hotels and other travel industry companies saying that they've really seen a significant increase in solo travel, which has led on to expanding to female-only areas of the hotels, dorms, and hostels, for example, and a lot of women seeking out adventure as well, which I think is great.
So it's something you would have done a little bit in your time, isn't it?
Absolutely. Love a bit of solo travel, and I think probably where I did most of that would have been in the States or in Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand.
I think the Southeast Asia one, certainly you would have hit a few dorms and things like that, staying in dorms and all sorts of things in Australia as well.
Well, I think, so in Thailand, the guest houses, accommodation, this has gone back, like a few years now, but the accommodation was relatively inexpensive in Thailand, so you could usually get somewhere really nice, a little bungalow or guest house. In Australia it was quite expensive to get the equivalent, so you would go into a dorm, and I've got memories of being in Queensland and Bowen, which is where they filmed the film Australia, and being in a dorm with 26 bunk beds. It was absolutely colossal. Not sure I'd recommend it. Mixed, yeah. And it was quite an experience. So, I'm kind of from the sort of luxury hospitality to the kind of other extreme. I've kind of seen it all. Definitely a character building experience, let's say.
So unfortunately, some of this comes a little bit too late for you, Ash. but it's great that it's being focused on.
Exactly. And actually I think there's some really interesting stats that actually there's a huge demand from women over 50, and I think that could potentially speak to women that have got families where the children are slightly more grown up, or the circumstances have changed in life, and they're like, right, great, I'm off to live the dream. And some amazing, we talked about adventure travel when we looked at some of the Hilton travel trends, and again seeing that here. Some really popular itineraries are cruising in Antarctica, with a really interesting journey through icebergs and seeing all the various wildlife, horseback riding in Yellowstone Park, and some women-only trips on various expeditions in Turkey and Cuba. So I think perhaps for destinations, perhaps where they're maybe slightly less discovered, or there's just, maybe women might not have felt as confident going on their own. I think it's interesting that travel companies are actually curating these women-only experiences, because I think, I suppose, and again, speaking from my own experiences, and, I've been booking travel for various trips that are coming up, I'm really considerate about how comfortable I am walking to that hotel at night time, from the tube or from, wherever I've been for an event. And that does matter to me in terms of my criteria of booking. I'm really lucky, and a lot of our clients very kindly host us when we stay. But if I need to just pop down for something else, and so I think the safety and security element will definitely be high on the list, as well as obviously the enriching experiences as well.
That's absolutely true, and from my perspective, that's probably the primary thing that I would consider, just from my male perspective, with a young daughter and family and everything. It is something that I think of. So I mean, what are the most important things in terms of safety if you're staying in a hotel room on your own? What do you want to have from hotels? If you are, one thing that's recently come through, is it the ask for Angela?
I've seen that a lot now, actually, on the back of like toilet doors and
pubs and things like that. And I know that BBC did an investigation where they advertised that they were participating, but then people would go and ask for Angela, and they had no idea what they were talking about. There's no Angela who works here. So I think I'd love to see that sort of that enthusiasm for making a change and doing something different. But when all you see is that they've done some marketing for it, and they've put up a sign, and then the team, the employees that work in the bar or whatever don't know anything about it, that is really concerning, because it's almost worse, because then you've put yourself out there.
You've created a false sense of security, essentially.
Yeah, false sense of security, and the person who is scaring you might be familiar with what Ask for Angela, more familiar than they are, and they now know that you're ratting them out with it, and you're not getting any help. So I do think having a plan in place, I think, for any hoteliers or hospitality people who are wanting to do that, it needs to.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's great, and I know this isn't necessarily a new thing, but hotels can often allocate like female only floors, and kind of section those off so it's key card entry only. So genuinely it'd be female colleagues and team members, as well as female guests that have access. For me, generally speaking, I feel relatively safe when I'm in the hotel. It's more about having, it's the location of the hotel, actually, for me, is more of the primary, like, how do I get from A to B, and how do I get to this hotel if it's in darkness, or if I've been to an event and I'm coming back a bit later. And I do tend to use public transport, and maybe I should just use cabs more.
No, that's far too expensive.
But yeah, exactly. So I think that the safety element is a key factor. I think from a sort of lighter note, and we just stayed at one of our lovely clients' hotels in Edinburgh recently, that's just opened, The Resident in Edinburgh. If anyone's heading up that way, we highly recommend staying. They've got GHD hairdryers, which, is just like, from all of the days of travelling and staying in hotels, either the hotel hairdryer might as well not bother because it's just so weak and doesn't really dry your hair. There's no plug socket within any sort of distance of a mirror, all of these things. But I do think now the way that hotel rooms have been designed are much more, I would say, inclusive of how females use the room, because in the past it hasn't been at all. And trying to put your makeup on and leaning over a massive sink because that's the only mirror, and various things. So I think the design of hotel rooms in terms of how women use them, the sort of safety features on the door with the sort of being able to view and double lock and all of those things are great advancements. The recognition of really nice bathroom amenities as well, so you're not having to like cart around loads of shampoo and conditioner. Back in the day it would have been maybe one shower gel, shampoo and conditioner in one, which actually does not work for most women's hair. So we now see, and again using our most recent example of the resident in Edinburgh, beautiful molten brown amenities. So it's just such a treat, and it's just the little touches actually that make the big difference for me when it comes to things like that. And those are the things that I really remember and kind of do affect my I suppose purchasing decisions, as it were. So I think hotels are doing some great things here, and I think it's just you mentioned about asking, I think in one of our earlier episodes, about family travel and actually asking people with families for specific feedback when it comes to designing these initiatives and designing the rooms. And I think particularly for this market segment, it's about engaging with your, solo female travellers and understanding more about what they want, engage with them, chat to them, get feedback, get them involved. And
surveys or whatever it
definitely.
might be, really sort of bespoke surveys for women who are saying and ask the right kind of questions, open questions, and get that feedback.
Yeah.
Really kind of try and, because they are an incredible resource, and also they're going to want to improve the hotel and travel experience for themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
In the future.
And often even, I suppose, moving beyond the solo travel, but often the females of the family are often the ones who are the booker or the
holding
key
the purse
decider,
strings.
and indeed, as it should be. But often they are the I suppose catalyst to then confirming in many ways and sort of key decision makers.
I don't know any man who would go and book a holiday without getting it confirmed first. It just would not ever happen. But that's the world we live in with families, certainly. And it's a good point you mentioned as well as the layout of hotel rooms. And briefly, I'll mention that again. I'm familiar with hotel groups, small groups who used to often have burnt carpets because of the GHDs, the hair straighteners, and their solution to that was to start charging people for the damage rather than actually acknowledge that they didn't have any furniture in their rooms to actually put things down on, let alone a mirror near anything they needed to be able to rest a hair straightener or a hair dryer on. As we recently found out, a hair dryer can also cause that burning carpet situation. But it wasn't either of us who caused the damage, so we will we're okay with that one. Then Angelina talks a little bit about soft travel.
That's what soft travel all about.
So really sort of travel that prioritizes ease, spontaneity, and mental health. It's different from slow travel by it sort of focuses inwardly on the traveller's well-being. And a quote from Christos Celsis, the GM of Santa Collection, the Santorini: "Guests are drawn to experiences that soothe their nervous system, like meditation classes and sunset serenades." Sounds nice, doesn't it?
It does sound lovely.
Is it true, Ash?
Well, I would definitely like to experience that.
The best thing about doing these travel trends is that actually we sort of plan out holidays from it, don't we?
I know.
I'm going to be Googling Santorini right now.
I mean, and again, I think this has been an evolving trend that has, kind of grown and added different experiences over time. But I love the thought of meditation, mindfulness, really kind of opening up and providing a platform for your guests to, kind of, make themselves feel a lot better, from a mental standpoint as well as a physical standpoint. We've seen lots of kind of running routes and gym classes and things, but actually I think this is more holistic in terms of health and well-being, which I really love this, and I think this is a huge area for growth with hotels, and lends itself really well to working with the local community to really activate these experiences. So love it.
In the sort of the post-COVID world, where for a couple of years there was a lot of stress with travel, whether it would be social distancing or cleanliness,
and the paperwork you needed to complete before you went anywhere.
The ordering food with an app and a QR code
that doesn't send you anywhere.
It doesn't send you, and then it gets lost, and then you get charged a service fee for every transaction you make, and then you ask for another drink, and then they charge you a service fee for that, and it's like, can I just have?
I can feel your pain here, Mike.
There's a definite hangover from that.
This is definitely still a scar tissue in there.
Is not from ordering extra drinks at a service fee for each time you ordered it. Yes, I think simplicity is great, but if you can combine that simplicity with just really good intuitive service. Really trying to understand your customers and make things easy for them, making it simple for them. You're going to be hitting these trends. There's no doubt about it. Luxury and simplicity aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, simplicity and luxury can be the absolute best kind of luxury. Yeah. Because luxury is different for every person, right?
It is.
What they consider luxury.
And I think as well, what's good to note here is that we are. We've pulled out a lovely example, and with the article running in Forbes, obviously there's some luxury high-end hotels and resorts that are featured here, but I think hotels at all levels, and from independent to groups, have got the opportunity to think about how they can support their hotel guests, well-being, as it were, and it doesn't have to cost any more money. It doesn't have to be really complex. I think there's small touches again that can have a big impact, and also you can tap into your local community, and it can be a mutually beneficial initiative. It doesn't have to always cost money or always be really complex. And we see in our day-to-day lives, everyone's so busy, and all of the hotel clients we work with, we recognize that everyone is busy, but doing something like this for your guests can actually have a big impact and not have a huge it doesn't demand a lot of resources internally.
And on the flip side, there are sometimes it'll be a huge amount of resource, but then that also needs to look simple. So, for example, we used to have some really high-end suites and guests staying in suites in some of the hotels I've worked in the past, paying thousands up to tens of thousands of pounds per night. And something simple like I'd like to have a hamburger at 1:00 in the morning. If your kitchen normally closes for room service at 10 or 11 or 12, or the fryer is turned off and the night porter normally goes in and cooks, but you have someone staying in that suite overnight, it might be worth having a night chef in that night, or for that whole week that they're staying. Because to then explain, actually, no, we have a procedure or a process in place where you can't get hamburgers after 11 o'clock. And they're like, it doesn't make sense to someone who's paying that kind of money.
Exactly.
The details of why that shift ended at 11 o'clock and why you can't turn on a fryer because it's health and safety in the middle of it doesn't
doesn't
you
really
can't explain
resonate
that,
with the
and there's no way
guest.
of they're like, well, I want is a hamburger, and that might mean you go out and get a hamburger. I mean, that's the other option, but whatever it might be, you want to be ready and prepared to do whatever it is you need to do for a guest at that sort of high end, so that it feels really, really simple to them.
Yeah.
So it's just a yes, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And if it has to be a no, but it's a no, but, and this is what I can do, and I can do it straight away. There's no sort of no's in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about keeping it simple, I think one of the emerging kind of phrases that come out in these experiences that are being talked about are simple pleasures. So like walking in nature, foraging, being in sort of quite locally owned, or having a real sense of place in where you stay. So yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, that we, I suppose, that the world is at our fingertips, that we have such accessibility when it comes to travel, and actually we sometimes come back to basics, don't we, with it, in terms of actually it's that connection with nature that's really key for people.
Yeah.
And then this is a phrase that we heard when we spoke with Joanna and Roz after WTM, which was JOMO, the joy of missing out travel.
You've done that a few times already this year, haven't you?
So I mean, the joy of missing out, I think, in this kind of example is talking about, I suppose, having like private vacation homes. So, in like having your own space, whether, I don't know, an Airbnb lodge or, home in the mountains, that kind of thing. So actually you're perhaps not in that sort of hotel in the traditional sense of, shared swimming pool, kind of shared spaces, and you've actually kind of, you're taking yourself out. And so again, coming back to that, simplicity, working on your own well-being, it's kind of, I suppose, being with your thoughts, and sort of taking yourself out of that busy sort of human setting, as it were. So it's interesting to see. And there's again, we've talked a little bit about this already, but the disconnection from technology and really using that time to have meaningful connections, whether that's with the local culture, whether that's being responsible travellers, whether that's taking the time to talk to team members at the hotel as well. And again, talking about the resident in Edinburgh, they have a lovely evening drinks between 5 and 6 every day, and guests of the hotel are welcome to their shared space, and there's some complimentary drinks, and you have the opportunity to really chat to other guests, chat to team members. And when you're staying at a property and you really want to understand a little bit about the local area, about hidden gems, tips and tricks of making the most out of your stay, it's such a really opportune time to speak to team members and again extract that sort of local knowledge that you might not find on your phone. And so you're disconnecting from your phone because actually you're having a conversation with an actual human and getting their personal recommendations, which for me is really valuable.
Yeah, and also it's all sort of away from the desk. I find like that sort of
that barrier is removed, isn't it? It's much more conversational.
Yeah, and there's lots of hotels that have got rid of that reception desk for exactly that reason. But there's lots of new hotels that still have them, and I understand why they kind of need to separate certain things. But yeah, just to being able to kind of have that conversation on a more human level, away from the desk, away from prying eyes and ears, you can really sort of get some other recommendations and other sort of insights into an area.
Yeah,
which I think is really, really powerful when you can get sort of as you were talking about when you're traveling, you get those recommendations from people who you're traveling with. Getting recommendations, I think, from hotel teams and employees, I think is so powerful when it's done right. Well. I think we've seen both sides.
The Leeds Castle reference always springs to mind, where someone was sent to actual Leeds.
Yeah, it's a great story when a porter at one of the hotels I was working at was covering the concierge desk at a 5-star hotel I used to work at, and an American couple was asking for directions to Leeds Castle, and he got them a taxi to the train station and bought them tickets to go to Leeds, and then told them, just get out and ask a taxi driver to take you to Leeds Castle. And of course they got there a few hours later and then found out that Leeds Castle it's closer to London, mate, I believe was the quote. And I think they were quite upset when they got back to the hotel. That's a...
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we talk about getting those local recommendations, and I think people want to often have a little bit, well, it depends. Obviously, there's some people that have a full-on itinerary and know from every hour. what they're going to eat, when they're going to go here, what they've booked. We've got a few.
We've got the same person in mind. Yeah.
That are, planning what they're going to eat for Christmas already now in January. But so we've got I suppose people that love that structure and that kind of forward planning, and then people completely at the other end of the spectrum, which will just kind of book something, arrive and work it out, and somewhere sort of in the middle. But how as operators and as hotels can you kind of balance that desire for spontaneity with the need of more of a structured service, so they can actually sort of plan around that? How have you kind of seen that work well, or from your own experiences, have you got any examples of sort of how that can be done well, of having that balance?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to how you empower your teams to kind of go off script, because I think often we have a huge amount of brand standards and things like that people need to go by, but I think often it's good to kind of empower them to also really listen and really answer questions really enthusiastically and interestingly, and to go and get help if not. So if someone's really sort of struggling a little bit, making recommendations, they don't really know what to say, give them the opportunity to go and ask for help and ask for someone else to give a recommendation, because if you have someone who's only been working at your front desk for a couple of weeks and then suddenly they're asked a really in-depth question about that they have no sort of personal knowledge of, ultimately it's either they haven't been trained properly, or they haven't had long enough in a role to kind of recognize that. So as early as possible, get people to ask for a bit of help or make a recommendation or come back to someone, and allowing that flexibility within your processes to help guests who always want a bit of spontaneity, because if you don't have spontaneity, you're losing out the sort of the theatre and the enjoyment of a stay. I think that's sort of really sort of crucial, certainly for a sort of a exceptional guest experiences. I mean, if it's a very, if you're just in a just a bedroom building, like it's just literally in and out and they're just sleeping there and leaving, then there's not a huge expectation that you're going to be adding experience. But I'm hoping most of our listeners will be looking for offering something a little bit more.
And I suppose that whole like travel persona of why is the guest with you? It might be the same person, but they're there for different reasons at different times, or they're there with a family on business, as a couple, or that kind of guest archetype. So it's that sort of intuitive, quick to identify in many ways, or just asking a few sort of really open questions and sort of getting a quick understanding of why they're there and what might resonate with them, and then you can then really personalize, and then of course you've got all of the data that sits in your property management system or your CRM as well. You can tap into often and just get a sense of the guest and maybe past experiences and behaviours that might help. So we've got a lot of information at our fingertips which can help. But I think sort of engaging and asking those questions is always great. Great. Okay, so moving on to another trend. Yes, silent travel. So again, looking at the benefits of disconnecting, which again, there's a lot of sort of threads through a lot of these trends that really interconnect in my mind. But this is identified that they call quietcations. And silent travel offers travellers a chance to disconnect from the noise of urban life and reset mentally. Love this. But I mean, when you look at, and I don't have the stats to hand, but this geography and the kind of human geography of the world and the concentration of people in cities across the world is huge. So we're all, many of us are living in a city or in a conurbation of a city, and, the noise, the rat race, it can be quite exhausting. I mean, you can also get a lot of energy from it as well. But I think, that whole stepping away to slow down, reset, recharge is something that a lot of the travel agencies and operators who commented in this article really talk about. And there's some lovely experiences. Stargazing is in there, which we're very lucky here in the Northumberland.
In dark skies.
We have dark skies designated zones around Kielder.
Which is great if there's Northern Lights are coming along, which we've already had a few alerts this year for Northern Lights, unfortunately. Just a bit too cloudy.
Yeah, but we have seen the Northern Lights up in the northeast of England here at the coast a few times, and I mean, so privileged to be able to see them, in our back garden, which is great. But but certainly can go to darker areas to see them. And then these sort of silent immersion packages. So there's a lovely example of the Intercontinental Maldives offering various sort of mindful sessions and really quiet experiences. There's a lot of silent retreats as well. In Thailand, which I get it. That's the first ring of the mention of Thailand.
Oh yeah, the Thailand bell.
Yeah,
has gone off.
So when I worked in Thailand, there was the rise of these sort of silent retreats, which taps into the sort of Buddhism and again that kind of personal enrichment that you have when you're silent, and often these can be days at a time. And nocto tourism, so nighttime adventures, so like diving. So I've done a night dive, actually. I was a bit terrified.
Where did you do the night dive?
In the Perhentian Islands in Malaysia. And I was just convinced myself a massive shark was just going to come out of the depths.
Yeah, it probably was.
And because it's feeding time. I know.
That sounds amazing. I mean, I did 4 dives. I know you've done 50 odd, if not more. But they were all during the daytime, and they were just
crystal clear water.
You
saw a leopard shark on your first dive.
It was incredible, but I was scared when we sort of went into the sort of the open sea and the darkness that you can see down there. The idea of jumping into that nearly total darkness sounds really quite frightening to me, but it sounds also brilliant.
But it is something, and I know we've spoken about, it's just such a different environment, obviously. So, but it does sound like pretty obvious to say that. But you are in a completely different habitat. You are a guest in this underwater world, and it is.
You have torches and things, right?
Torches, but even just diving in the daytime, it's silent. You hear little pops of the coral, but it's essentially silent, and it's magical. And especially I think in areas like Red Sea in the tropics, where it's warm water, it's beautiful, crystal clear, bright corals. It is an incredible experience, and I think actually that whole mindfulness, yes, you're making sure that you've got enough air and you're checking on your dive buddy and stuff, but actually it can be in the right conditions a really relaxed and very enriching experience. I'm making myself want to dive now after I've been talking about this.
But the silent travel sounds absolutely amazing. Now, we're in a particular situation with some young ones where silence is kind of the furthest possible thing that I can imagine of one of our sort of family holidays being. But it is it sounds like quite an aspirational thing that we could do at some point in the next 15 years or so. But it sounds absolutely amazing.
And you can understand the benefits, and in one of our other episodes we talk about sleep tourism, and that silence is obviously helping to reduce stress, improve sleep, inner peace, all of those things that support mental and emotional well-being. It's really interesting how it's all coming back, I think, really to that mental well-being in many ways, isn't it?
I'm going to start Googling right now. Going to see what we can do.
Quiet holidays.
Quiet holiday, weekend away.
We've been to a few silent discos. I'm not sure that counts.
Yeah, silent disco, leave the headphones off. just relax.
That's great. Well, I think, some really interesting themes that Angela has pulled out in these articles. I think she does an amazing job, and this year's been, again, no exception. But in terms of the sort of 3 trends, I think amazing to see, the rise of solo travel, particularly for women, and really looking for, being adventurous, seeking those really sort of transformative experiences, the well-being, mental wellness, whether that is through, challenging yourself through adventure, or whether it's actually just taking some time out and enjoying the simplicity and the silence. So yeah, from a hotel and operator's perspective, I mean, what are the key takeaways that they can look at doing in their own businesses?
Well, I think I 100% need to have some sort of packages or something in there that is really suited for solo travelers and solo female travelers, for sure. I think just making sure the communications of whatever facilities you feel might be that your property best offers to every kind of trip persona, including solo female travelers, is great, whether that's the security element or whether that's just the lighting, or whether that's you can come into the bar and have a bite to eat, and there's always a bar stool free, and you don't have to book, and just get that flexibility. I think in terms of wellness, so many hotels have sort of great spas, and they're in a great place, but you don't necessarily have to have a spa to have some great wellness options also. I think working with local people who can offer sort of mindfulness retreats, or some sort of eco-friendly escapes, or something in addition to the offers that you have on. I think having a page on your website about that really focuses on wellness and what you can do, rather than thinking about what you can't do, I think is really good. And ensuring that your teams can talk about it and recognize these situations. I think if before arrival you haven't really sort of worked out what someone's trip persona is likely to be, you certainly, your last opportunity to do that really is on check-in. Yes, you can work it out during their stay, but often that's a little bit too late to actually do anything about it. But on arrival, sort of understanding and trying to help your teams understand what different trip personas might want from their stay, I think is important, because it is difficult for a young man to understand what a older woman might want to have in a stay if she's traveling by herself, and it is something that's... What are you laughing at?
I'm just thinking of the T-shirt that's been middle-aged women of a certain age that's been doing the rounds, so maybe you're not equipped to say that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean.
But no, like, I know exactly what you're saying.
They won't understand or not care. I mean, there's that element as well. And I think what it is important that whatever education or knowledge you can share with your teams, and insights that you can share, it's going to help to a certain extent.
Sorry, I digress. Highly inappropriate, but just but no, I think it comes down to empowering and educating your team to help deliver them. And yes, we talk about empathy being such an important characteristic when you're particularly front of house and dealing with various situations and guests. But yeah, of course, we're not all equipped. We've all got our own sort of perceptions and lenses, and yeah, of course. But I think that's when your like a team effort really comes into play, and also your guest feedback as well. Listening and engaging with your key target markets to understand what their needs are, and ultimately kind of evolving your offering off the back of that. So but yeah, some really interesting trends here, and I know we've got a few others to chat about over the series. So thank you so much for tuning in today and for listening, and we look forward to sharing our next topics with you very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. We hope today's episode has offered some insights and encouragement to anyone navigating the world of hospitality or entrepreneurship. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, want to suggest a topic, or interested in just joining us as a guest, you'll find our contact details in the show notes. Don't forget to follow, like, or subscribe to The Halo Effect on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Until next time, thank you, and we can't wait to welcome you back for more stories and inspiration.